Lesson 9, Algebraic Proof. Your learning targets for this lesson are to review properties of equality and use them to write algebraic proofs, and to identify properties of equality and congruence. We only have one vocabulary word, and that is proof. The definition of proof. It is an argument that uses logic, definitions, properties, and previously proven statements to show that a conclusion is true. An important part of writing a proof is giving justifications to show that every step is valid. We need to review the properties. We have the property, addition property of equality. If I add the same number to both sides of my equation, they're still equal. The subtraction property of equality. If I subtract the same number from both sides, then I get a true statement. The multiplication property. If I multiply by the same number on both sides, then I get a true statement. The division property of equality. If I divide by a number, as long as it's not 0, I'm going to have the same thing on both sides. Reflexive property of equality means that any number is equal to itself. Symmetric, that would be kind of like our changing order. If A equals B, then B equals A. The transitive, we've talked about especially with biconditional statements, where we say if A is equal to B, B is equal to C, then A must be equal to C also. And the substitution property of equality. If A equals B, then B can be substituted for A in any expression. You need to commit these to memory. I would start with a note card just to help me write my proofs during homework time. That way I can learn them without looking after a short time. Don't forget we also have the distributive property. You can see this one as if we distribute a number to both B and C, then we have AB plus AC. Let's look at an example. Solve the equation 4m minus 8 equals negative 12. Write a justification for each step. We're used to solving equations like this, but we're not used to the justification. So let's do one. First of all, we have 4m minus 8 equals negative 12, and we would write given equation, because that's what we were asked to solve. We add 8 to both sides, and we justify by saying we are using the addition property of equality. We simplify and get 4m equals negative 4. Then we divide by 4 and we justify by saying that we're using the division property of equality. And we simplify to get m equals negative 1. You try one. Solve the equation 1/2 t equals negative 7. Write a justification for each step. You might want to pause the recorder and solve the problem, as I will be giving the answer shortly. We have 1/2 t equals negative 7, given equation. We multiply both sides by 2 using the multiplication property of equality. This cancels out the fraction on the left side. And we get t equals negative 14. And this is because we simplified. Did you get those steps? Good. Let's use an application problem. What is the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit when it is 15 degrees Celsius? Solve the equation Fahrenheit equals 9/5 Celsius plus 32 for Fahrenheit and justify each step. Step 1 is to understand the problem. The answer will be the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. and we need to list the important information. We were given a formula to find Fahrenheit, and we know that it is 15 degrees Celsius. Steps 2 and 3. Substitute the given information into the formula and solve. That's our plan. And step 3 is to solve. So our given equation is F equals 9/5 C plus 32. We substitute in that the Celsius is 15, and this is the substitution property of equality. We simplify and simplify again, and then we state our answer. We have 59 degrees Fahrenheit when we have Celsius 15 degrees. Step 4 is to look back. We can check our answer by substituting it back into the original formula. So we have F equals 9/5 Celsius plus 32. We plug those in, 59 and the 15 back into the original equation, and we do in fact get 59 on both sides. So we know that our answer is correct. You try. What is the temperature in degrees Celsius, C, when it is 86 degrees Fahrenheit? Solve the equation C equals 5/9 times Fahrenheit minus 32 degrees for C and justify each step. Go ahead and pause the recorder while you solve. We're given the equation C equals 5/9 Fahrenheit minus 32. We're going to substitute in the 86 degrees by the substitution property of equality. Simplify and simplify again. We have 30 degrees Celsius. Like algebra, geometry also uses numbers, variables, and operations. For example, segment lengths and angle measures are numbers. So you can use these same properties of equality to write algebraic proofs in geometry. AB represents the length AB of segment AB, so you can think of AB as a variable representing a number. Let's try a geometric equation. Write a justification for each step. The segment NO is equal to 4x minus 4, N equals 2x, and MO equals 3x minus 9. We know that NO equals NM plus MO, and this is the segment addition postulate. Substitution property of equality allows us to substitute in the information we know on each side. We simplify. Subtraction property of equality. And simplifying again, addition property of equality here. X equals 5. Let's do one with angles. Write a justification for each step. We know that the measure of ABC equals the measure of ABD plus the measure of DBC. This is the angle addition postulate. The substitution property of equality allows us to put those amounts that were given into our equation. We simplify and get 8x equals 9x minus 11. We use the subtraction property of equality. We subtract 9x on both sides. And then we multiply both sides by -1. And we use the multiplication property of equality to get x equals 11. Remember that in Chapter 1 we talked about segments with equal lengths, and we identified them as congruent, and angles with equal measures are also congruent. The reflexive, symmetric, and transitive properties of equality have corresponding properties of congruence. Congruence properties are here in the chart. You have the reflexive property of congruence. If figure A is congruent to figure A, any figure is congruent to itself. Any segment is congruent to itself. Symmetric property of congruence. If figure A is congruent to figure B, then figure B is congruent to figure A in both orders. The transitive property of congruence. If figure A is congruent to figure B and figure B is congruent to figure C, then figure A is congruent to figure C. Let's keep in mind that numbers are equal and figures are congruent. Identify the property that justifies each statement. Angle QRS is congruent to angle QRS. This is the reflexive property of congruence, or of equality. Measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 2, so the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 1. This would be the symmetric property of equality. AB is congruent to CD, and CD is congruent to EF, so AB is congruent to EF. This would be the transitive property of congruence. 32 degrees equals 32 degrees. This is the reflexive property of equality. You try it. Identify the property that justifies each statement. DE equals GH, so GH equals DE. Did you get this symmetric property of congruence? 94 degrees equals 94 degrees. You should have gotten the reflexive property of equality. 0 equals A, and A equals X, so 0 equals X. This would be the transitive property of equality. Angle A is congruent to angle Y, so angle Y is congruent to angle A. This is the symmetric property of congruence. Be sure that you fill this chart out and answer the 2 questions on top to put in your notes and in your folder for next class. The coming attractions, we will be learning about 2-column proofs, flowchart proofs, and paragraph proofs. See you next class.